And welcome, guys, to Off Camber episode 4. This is TC. Welcome back for our China preview. And this is Thursday night before the Grand Prix. So, here for a second episode of the week, we've got a special guest, Manul. Welcome.
Absolute pleasure to be on. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure for appearing and getting in front of the camera, because this is our first video
It's
podcast.
big.
So this is huge, mate. Huge. Don't worry, the production's going to get better. We've got a falling Suzuka wheel pillow and Manul's Asin hat as our props. But yeah, tell me a little bit about your following in F1 and how you got into the sport.
Yeah, I got into F1 pretty early. As a kid growing up, loved cars, and so naturally you sort of gravitate towards motorsport.
Yep.
As a way to see the pinnacle of automotive racing is F1. I started off being a Williams fan mainly because Dad worked for HP back in the day, and that was back when Williams had that fat HP logo on the side. And then they fell off the face of the earth. So
they're coming back. As I said, this is actually our second take, guys. We had some microphone issues, so don't worry, we're on the ball though. We're getting there. So it's been a long time coming, but so quickly before, because I know that I talked about the Grand Prix last weekend in my last episode, but tell me quickly your thoughts on the race last weekend.
As I was saying, absolutely love a wet race. A wet race is more about the drivers. It's more about the team strategy, and it's not so much about who made the fastest car. And all I can say is what an absolutely class strategy from McLaren. The choice of the tires, the timing of the pit stops were absolutely amazing. And honestly, if Oscar Piastri didn't spin off and end up in the grass and end up in reverse for about 45 seconds, he would have had pole in a home Grand Prix. So
I know.
Man, what a shame.
But actually, out of that though, I want to quickly say something, is because I didn't talk about this, but I was talking to my mate about this, who put this forward to me. And I have to mention it because it is a good little thought process, which I didn't take into account. But essentially, when Lando and Oscar came off the track, right?
Yeah.
Piastri essentially saved McLaren of a win for Lando, right? Because here's the thought process. Piastri doesn't come back on the circuit. It's a safety car, right? Lando boxes immediately after, but Verstappen didn't box, right? So let's say Piastri doesn't come out ahead. Sorry, he doesn't come out at all of the grass, right? Remember, he was bogged down, put it in reverse, got it out, right? Let's say he doesn't get it out, right? That's easily at least a VSC.
Oh, 100%.
At least a VSC. So what happens? Verstappen stays out, VSC or safety car comes out, and Verstappen gets a cheap pit stop and takes the lead of the Grand Prix and probably wins. And that is something I didn't think of, which I thought I'd bring up. So thanks for the take, Shane. But
was that all Shane?
Yeah. So it was a good thought, but I didn't think of it, and I thought I would share it tonight.
Yeah, but very, very good point. Honestly, I think very, very on par with the Shane. If Oscar hadn't taken the car out of the grass, that was easily a free pit stop for Max.
Anyway, let's move on to the weekend ahead, because it's going to be hopefully a good one with neutral conditions. Obviously, the wet was entertaining, but I guess it didn't tell a full story of where everyone's at. So Shanghai, I think it's been a bit of a mixed bag over the last few years. Last year's race, we saw actually Alonso, your man here, was on the second row, but he fell off in the race last year, of course, and Verstappen dominated essentially. But the thing I like about this track is that it's high speed, it's low speed, it's got medium corners, It's pretty much like a mixed bag. So I guess it's going to give us a good idea of sort of where the cars are at. What's your thoughts on like Shanghai as a track, I guess?
I think Shanghai is a really good balanced proving ground for race 2 on the calendar. I think, you bring it into Albert Park and it's all about the corners, right? Which team has the car that can corner the fastest, given it's not a wet race. Shanghai is more about, your straight line speed as well as your ability to take those corners. I think in terms of fastest car on the grid, if it's not McLaren, it has to be Red Bull.
Yeah.
And actually, shout out to VCarb as well for having a very, very
Yeah.
competitive car.
Yeah.
They look to be quite on par.
Yeah. Sonoda was pretty fucking good, but um, he got unlucky, I guess, in the end. But Hajar, I think
Poor
we're going
Hatchar,
to
man.
see more of him, though. I think the rookies are quick, and we're definitely going to see more of them this weekend. Hopefully, with better conditions,
For
we'll
sure.
start to see some different results. And yeah, so anyway, let's move on to some questions I want to ask you and myself, I guess. The FIA is going to put out a directive over the mini DRS wings. Essentially, in Australia, we saw that like rear wing opening a little bit,
Mhm.
which supposedly is giving them drag advantages. So, will this affect the top order? So, in Spain, for people who don't know, there's going to be a change in the regulations, which impact flexi wings as a whole. So they'll change the load tests that they do. And presumably, from what we know, this is going to benefit Red Bull. But in the meantime, I think they are changing, well, supposedly from what I've read, changing the amount of flex in that rear wing. So do you think this is going to impact McLaren, or is it just going to be business as usual?
I think honestly, McLaren was the biggest offender of the whole flexi wing issue in the
Yeah,
LGP. And F1 is a copycat sport.
yeah,
Like one team has an engineering advantage, and if you can't match that, what you do is complain about it. You
yeah,
saw that. You've seen that year on year. I
yeah,
mean, back when Mercedes had the little the what was the system called? But you pull back the wheel and you'd
the
adjust.
DAS.
Yeah, back
Yeah,
when Mercedes had DAS,
yeah,
and no one could figure it out. I mean, the amount of uproar there was about that was
yeah.
ridiculous.
Yeah, no,
So
that's fair enough. It's very true that either the teams will copy or essentially complain to the FIA.
and then Phillips
It
are complaining one
and
out this time.
yeah, complaining's the route that they'll go. Um, but yeah, anyway, so Ferrari debut wasn't spectacular. Leclerc and Hamilton finishing the points, but they
Yeah.
weren't insanely quick. What do you
Ham-
reckon about China? They're going to come back this weekend, or
I will say Hamilton did lead the race for I believe it was 2 laps.
yeah,
That was pretty much just on a safety car, really.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I don't know if Ferrari have it in them.
yeah,
I don't know if the chemistry's there yet, especially listening to a couple of those radio
yeah,
messages
yeah,
in race
yeah,
one. I
yeah,
think they're still very much figuring things out, especially having a driver of Lewis's caliber
yeah,
now next to Charles,
yeah,
figuring out that driver dynamic. I don't think Ferrari's there yet. As far as the hardware,
yeah.
we haven't really seen what that car is capable of in
True.
race conditions. We've seen it in the open track, not so much with other cars on it. It's really hard to say at this point,
Yep.
but given Ferrari's track record, I reckon they're not really going to be challenging McLaren or Red Bull this year.
Okay.
Hopefully, Fred Vasseur can turn that
Interesting.
around, but
Interesting. You
we'll
see,
see.
I've got a different opinion on that because I reckon Ferrari will come good, but I think it's more of a yeah, they're just dealing with teething
Yeah,
issues and the classic clown fucking strategies that they do, that they mock, and they get caught up with shit radio and TV, and essentially, I feel like it makes them out to be worse than what they are. I
so
think
they're the
they,
meme team.
yeah, yeah. So, you know, thanks for coming, Ferrari. Um, but we need to see better. And I think in neutral conditions, we will. So this weekend, hopefully that like can come out with them, being a track where they should be able to, flourish in some capacity, I guess.
100%. Again,
Yeah.
this is more of this is more of an indictment on their engineers and not so much on their drivers. We know what Charles Leclerc is capable of. We know what
Yeah.
Lewis is capable of.
Yeah.
It's pretty much just how fast can you get that thing around a track, and
Yeah.
that's really on the engineers.
Do you have Leclerc on top of Norris as a driver?
Oh, I think the last 2 years, I think Lando's been head and shoulders above Charles.
Yeah.
If you asked me back in the Sauber
Okay, forget it.
days,
But you put them in two. Okay, you put them both in a Toyota Corolla.
yeah,
Who is winning over one lap?
I think Lando goes faster. Just
Really?
Lando today goes faster around
Jesus.
any circuit.
Jesus. There you go. See, I think I'm of the perspective it's Leclerc because he's proven like for many years that he can win races, and he's quick over a lap. And even when the Ferrari's been shit, he's
Yeah, he's been pulling
he's
that
been able
thing.
to pull results. So, but hey, that's fair enough. Lando's also a performer, and he'll continue to be. They both will be for many years to come. So look forward to watching their greatness in the next few years. But the last one I have for you is Kimi. His result in Australia was
Hmm.
phenomenal. Is he for
Points.
real, or is this exaggeration of the conditions, or you know, are we overreacting to his finish? What do you think?
I think in a wet race, again, it's absolute chaos out there. I mean, Kimi Antonelli to be able to finish in the points, first race in F1,
Yep.
amazing job. But I don't think he's as good as some people are making him out to be at the
Really?
moment.
Okay.
At the
Yep.
moment, I mean, at the end of the day, you're still a rookie.
Yep.
And an F1 and an F2 are night and day. Like,
Yeah.
in terms of how in
Okay.
terms of how fast that car is, I think the wet race really did help him out.
Yep.
I don't know if he's going to be consistently giving you that many points a weekend.
Yep.
I don't know if he has that in him at the moment. I don't know if Mercedes as a team is in a position to compete at
Yep.
the moment, seeing how far behind they are
Okay.
compared to the rest of the,
Okay.
the
Yep.
pack leaders. But we'll see.
Okay. I'm gonna give him more credit. I think he is rapid,
Hmm.
and I think he'll do well. But I think that if he scores, let's say, a P6 in China,
Yeah.
I'd say that is just as good, right?
Oh,
It's like he's got a great result in Australia, but perhaps he benefited from, which he did, a good strategy from Mercedes,
for sure.
and he did have a spin, but he also made a lot of overtakes. So
Mhm.
I think it's a bit of both, where he had a top-notch performance and he also benefited from the strategy, right? So if let's say he goes P6 or P7, I think that should be classed as a similar result to Australia because it's neutral and he's not going to get that like huge jump from strategy, and hopefully he qualifies better and just has an overall more stable race, which will lead to a points finish, and that will show that he's still a good driver and deserves to be in the Mercedes
For
team, mate.
sure. I
So
will say big props to Kimmy. You're a rookie in F1, your first ever race. It's a
how
wet
fucked is
race.
it that he's 18, mate?
Yeah. 18, yeah, my little brother's age. And
Yeah.
your first ever race in F1, and it was a wet race. You managed to keep the car off the
It's
grass
a
while the
ret
guy
race
went
in
out.
Melbourne. No
Yeah.
worries, mate. So,
Yeah. And you got points. I will say that does give him a bunch of brownie points in terms of
yeah,
how good you are as a driver. Wet
definitely.
races.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. So let's get to our predictions. I'm going to start with Manol first, being the guest.
Yep.
Allow the guests to go first. All right. So let's start with your race winner.
My race winner, I don't think much changes from AusGP to Shanghai. I think it's still going to be Lando Norris.
Yeah. Okay. And anything else to add on that? Like, what's any strategy, or is he just going to be flat out the fastest, like have a max 2023, max
Or
2022, 2023 weekend where it's just fastest every session, clean sweeps every session and wins? Is it going to be like a runaway, like his performance in the Netherlands last year, or is it going to be close?
I think the one asterisk I will put on Lando's name is that Oscar can keep up with the pace,
Yep.
and they're both an equal machinery. And barring any team politics, which honestly, if Oscar didn't spin out, there would have been
Yeah. Yeah.
because he
Agreed.
he was he was leading for a large majority of that race.
Yeah. Agreed.
And so, he does have competition, but it's not so much at this moment in terms of how they're able to execute strategy and with the whole flexi rear wing still being allowed
Yep.
until Spain.
Yeah.
I think the competition doesn't come from Red Bull or Mercedes. I think the competition comes from Oscar.
Yeah. 100%. And going back to me, I agree with that 100% because realistically, if it's more neutral, then Lando Norris should run away with it. Just like he probably would have if it was neutral in Australia. If, let's say, we had a good weather race in Australia, I think he runs away with it because we also saw that the McLarens look after their tyres way better than any other car. So,
Yeah. I mean, honestly, you're 30, 40 laps deep and you're still setting fastest
yeah.
sectors and fastest lap times.
Yeah.
Like,
And over the qualifying lap as well, that last sector, no one was able to push the car like
McLaren. Yeah.
So I'm with you 100% on that. Lando Norris for the P1. What about your pole position?
My pole position. Ooh. You okay. Here's the thing. Here's the
You
thing.
no sitting on the fence, mate. All right, just give it to me straight. What
Oh
is it?
man. Because you're saying Max, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yep,
tempted. I'm tempted to go Max
yeah.
because you can't doubt the Red Bull's
Okay, no.
performance.
So
But
okay, you're tempted to go Max, but
but
who
I
were you
can't.
going before?
I can't. I think Oscar. Honestly, I think Oscar. I
Okay,
think this is his year. I think he's shown the maturity. I think he knows what to expect in terms of the team politics and McLaren having this soft spot for Lando.
yep.
But honestly, if we're talking pure racecraft and what someone's able to do behind the wheel, I'm saying Oscar.
Okay, as an Aussie, like I rate that, but as an objective, is it an objective professional? Okay, that I am. It's gonna be Max. It's gonna be Max. I think he's
you
just gonna
think
pull.
you
He's
think
just
Red
gonna
Bull?
pull something out his ass in the Red Bull and just somehow put it on pole like he almost did in Australia
So
in inferior machinery, like he has done over the years. And
you think Red Bull has the inferior car, but Max is the better
absolutely,
driver.
Max is the superior driver. And I think Lawson is probably going to have a better qualifying, but he's still going to struggle in the Red Bull because
Yeah.
no one can pull it out. I mean, it's just proven. I'm not an engineer, but over the years, you can just see, and just like drivers have said,
Yeah.
it's a pretty difficult car to drive. And obviously, Max has got a great feel of it, and he's superior to anyone else in that car.
100%. I mean, like you look at the amount of co-drivers Max has had
Yeah,
in his years at Red Bull. Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon. Um, I mean, maybe Yuki Tsunoda. If you think about if you put him in a Red Bull,
yeah,
I have faith. I'm a Yuki lover. I'm a
yeah,
Yuki believer. But you know his track record of teammates, apart from maybe Sergio Perez, who
yeah,
basically just played the role of defense
yeah,
for his entire time there.
yeah,
He was probably the only one that drove that Red Bull car as good as Max,
yeah,
and you know, obviously Daniel Ricciardo, who if he
yeah.
didn't leave, would have actually been competing.
No, there you go. But that's, I mean, that's a video for another day. That's a whole freaking hour on that topic. All right. Um, Now, next, we're going to go for our class drive. The class drive is essentially the driver of the day.
I don't even have to say anything.
He's got the Alonso hat out.
You have to say anything.
Who? So that's Alonso. That's your class drive. Okay.
Number 14 in green.
Okay. So, are they sandbagging Aston, or are they
Honestly, that Aston Martin team, they just finished building a wind tunnel. Adrian knew he's gonna go in. He's gonna push for the engineering team to be better. I don't think. Look, it's still a green tractor, but it is getting faster. Uh, that being said,
Yep.
Fernando Alonso, with the amount of experience that he has under his belt, you
Yeah.
cannot count him out. You
Okay.
know, given equal machinery, given no accidents or anything weird happening, I think with the way that he manages that car, I don't think any driver manages tires better than Fernando Alonso.
Okay.
Maybe Lewis Hamilton, give or
Okay.
take, but I think
So you're saying points finish for Fernando?
I'd put him in the lower tier of the points,
Okay.
but
Okay.
still
So,
very slow.
okay. Well, I will wholeheartedly disagree, as we'll see next. But
Oh.
my class drive is. I ate my fucking words last week on this bloke. Carlos Sainz is a fucking gun, if you don't mind. Back to back
Yeah.
class drives. I'm saying he will come back from Melbourne, which, Williams is saying it's not his fault, that spin. It was a dodgy gear shift. So I'm backing that story all the way because I want Carlos to back in another class drive. And I ate my words last week, but I think he's going to come back. It's all the more reason he's going to come back and do it. The Williams is clearly fast.
It is.
They've got some pace. Surely in neutral conditions, they can pull another bag and get the good result. Like, I really think that they can. And as I predicted in my constructors, they're going to perform well this year. So I think in China, it's going to be another banger.
I really hope you're right. I got the biggest soft spot in my half of Williams.
Yep.
It's good to see them finally
Yep.
have something to have a car to fight for points. It's been a while.
Yep, agreed.
It's been a
Agreed.
long time.
100%, 100%. And that's what motorsport's all about. Like, we love to see independent teams win any category, and it's so good when that happens because you can just see how much it means to them when, there's points on the table, even a fucking podium. Like, it means so much. So we always love an independent or a bottom tier team getting a nice fat dub. So next up, class drive. Sorry,
A class drive?
run wide drive.
Run wide drive.
drive. Who's your run wide drive?
I would honestly say without a doubt, Nico Hulkenberg.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay, the point
in the
scorer
Sauber.
from Australia.
In the
He
Sauber.
did get the points, but obviously that was a result of circumstance, not not where the car was. I mean, we know Hulkenberg's a decent driver, but the car obviously wasn't didn't deserve a P7.
Oh God, no.
So what's the going to be the result for him? I guess where's that heading for him this race? Like, is that a run wide drive? Is that a bottom of the ladder 20th, or is that a spin out type of race for him?
I'll be honest. That car is by head and shoulders the slowest thing on the grid.
Yeah.
And
Oh, but dude, the Haas was fucking shocking last week, though.
yeah, the Haas has also been
Dude, think
putrid.
about the Haas. Bordello did well in the Sauber,
Mhm.
and the Haas's were fucking nowhere. So I don't know about that, but it is not the quickest. I will
No,
agree.
I'm giving the benefit of the doubt to Haas. It was a wet race.
Yeah.
But look, if we're talking two slowest teams on the grid,
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty much
Absolutely.
Sauber and Haas.
Yeah.
I think Sauber is still slower.
Yeah.
I have no faith in them. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know if he spins. I think it'll definitely be probably a P19 or a P20.
Okay. I rate that. Now, my run wide drive will be Fernando Alonso.
Really?
Yeah. Because he's coming off a shit weekend in Australia. The car's nowhere. They're sandbagging. Aston Martin is going to be nowhere this year.
Oh.
They're still they still will be capable of points, but I just think maybe in Alonso's mind he's like, fuck it, 26 is the year. It's got to be his year. I am praying that that's going to be his year, but
give us a year. Let Adrian Newey use the wind tunnel and actually build us a car that can actually go around that track any faster. And I reckon 26. Praying to God, Lance Stroll's not driving for us.
Very well. We'll see what happens with that, but definitely as a result of all that, I think Alonso's going to succumb to the season and just flop.
What are you saying? What are you saying? P20?
No. He will still drag a few good results out of his car, 100%. But I'm just predicting that this weekend isn't one of them. And it's probably going to be a P14. He's slow. He's complaining about the car. And that's sort of, going to be the headline of the year for Alonso.
Okay.
And probably for Stroll, because let's face it, he's not as good as Fernando. So Lance will just be a cruiser, and Fernando will probably just be a cruiser as well. That being said, like I just said, Fernando is still probably going to be able to pull a few points finishes, but it's not going to be anything special.
No.
So for that reason, the run wide drive is going to be Fernando Alonso.
Okay.
So any sort of on that, any sort of other predictions that you've got, regarding strategy or anything that will change within the team order of pace or anything like that?
I think I'm really excited to see if Ferrari can figure it out between, they've only had a couple of days since the GP.
Yeah.
How quickly can they adjust to Lewis? Because this is now their second race of having a competitive Lewis, right?
Yeah.
And generally, with every team that Lewis has been in, he's pretty much gone in and changed the culture. I mean, you saw Lewis when he came to Mercedes, right?
Yeah.
Within that first season.
Part of the Mercedes furniture, mate.
Massive culture shift. I mean, I'm not sure to go before that. Lewis and McLaren, again, they moved heaven and earth to accommodate for Lewis, and I mean, it's paid off, right?
Yep.
But that's the sort of aura, the sort of pedigree that he brings to this team, and I hope that they can figure it out sooner rather than later. But I think I'm predicting that he puts a lot of pressure on that engineering team, and they can turn it around. I'm very hopeful.
Okay, that's good take. Good take. I 100% agree, because we love success and we love competitiveness in this sport, and that's really what we want, is a good race at the end of the day. And thankfully, I feel like we're in a good spot this year with F1 where we're going to keep getting that. So that's all we've got for today. Thanks for coming on and all. Appreciate it. We'll definitely be putting your predictions under a microscope after the Grand Prix. So that's going to be fun. And yeah, looking forward to a good, hard, clean, and fair race. All right. So that was episode 4. I'm TC. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next week.